It's a trend that actually has a lot of artists like Alex disappointed. So maybe you've done this. So if you have been using ChatGPT online, you can create an illustration of yourself as an action doll. This is one of the latest. So many musicians and influencers have taken on this trend, and then you end up seeing yourself with all your accessories as if you're a doll for purchase. And it sounds somewhat harmless, but some artists do say that the popularity of using AI for fun can actually hurt their industry in the future. So as I mentioned, Alex is an illustrator based here in Winnipeg, and you do find this disappointing. Disappointing is one thing, but how concerning is this for your industry?
Very. It's one of those things where it's like we're going to be making art regardless. But you've already seen some industries and some just some general jobs in the art industry, like really going in a concerning direction. So, like for example, something like editorial illustrations, the ones that you would see at the head of an article online or in a magazine or something like that. Those are going down fairly quickly. Even like the listicles and things like that. People just generating stuff. So that's a job that's not very common anymore, and it's very concerning in a ethical way as well.
Have you had conversations with people about this? Because I think most of us have seen this trend. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah, I have. I'm one of those people who's really annoyed about it in real life. I talk about it a lot online, and if people mention it to me in person, I do take it into a direction that they don't usually love to talk about.
How is it different? Someone might wonder from any other altered figure, filter online, or a test that someone might take, or such, or are all of these things sort of just a continuum of chipping away at taking someone's job? Do you think?
Gen AI, like generative AI, is different because it's first of all you have to train a model on data to be able to do it in the first place. And all of that data was scraped basically from the internet. My work included is in those data sets. And it was taken without our consent and basically used against us. And the environmental cost is even more concerning in my opinion, as much as it really sucks that my work has been taken and my peers' works have been taken and turned into something that we don't like. AI uses an insane amount of water and an insane amount of electricity, especially the image generating ones. So, for example, I think the new OpenAI model takes about 500 milliliters of clean, drinkable water for every 100-word response. And then it's more for images. Even Sam Altman, he's the CEO or whatever, he's like, please stop saying please and thank you to ChatGPT because it's taking too much energy.
How do you feel when you see other creatives like musicians or writers using AI in their work?
Bad. This might sound harsh, but if you're another creative in any industry and you're using it, you need to know that we're looking at that as like scab behavior. Like you're crossing a picket line. You can't rail against it, using it in music or writing and then turn around and use generative AI images on your covers or something like that. It's very, very bad behavior actually in the industry, and people talk about it and they do notice.
What would you say to someone who is a client and they say they're using AI because they can't afford to pay an artist for their work?
I would say there are lots of options for that. You can use stock photos. They can either be very cheap or you can find public domain images in the public domain library. There's stuff you can search. Or you can just use text. Like look at the old Penguin, look at Penguin classic covers. They're so classy. They're so beautiful. You don't need a lot. You don't need it to be exactly, this glossy. Also, if you use a generative AI image on your cover, I'm probably going to think that you aren't putting as much care into the rest of your work. So I know that sounds really harsh, and I don't mean to get really weird about it because I understand the appeal and I understand that people may want something and they may not have the money for an artist, but there are other options, and I will respect you so much more if you use those.
Um, some artists, including yourself, have started including, I understand, anti-AI clauses into your contracts. Can you tell me more about that and what the response has been like?
Yeah, so this kind of stems from a story I heard of a concept artist, I believe in the game industry, where they were hired to do all the concept art for the game, and they got about, third, halfway into their contract, were let go because the company was like, "Hey, so we have what we need from you. We can get the rest by feeding what you've given us already into the AI machine, and we'll just generate the rest of it. So you're good to go." So people naturally have started putting like you can use my work like a regular licensing agreement that you have in every contract for a corporate work. Um, but it's starting putting like, but you can't use it for training, you can't use it for any of
Hmm.
that. I think it's been fine. Like the people who are hiring artists usually know.
But if they don't, this would maybe protect the artist then from, as you said, the work not being compromised, and also the artist then being able to say that you're going to stay with them, you're going to commit to them for the whole project.
Yes, and it is tricky because it is hard to prove that you've been used. Like so Meta said, hey, you can opt out of our AI stuff, or you can cause a problem if you can prove that we've used your stuff. And by its very nature, you can't say, yeah, I can see that my thing is in here, and by its very, so it's hard to prove. But uh, on smaller scales like that, yes, it can certainly protect the artist.
What would you recommend? I mean, maybe beyond the clause we're talking about, but if there's an upcoming illustrator or an artist and they want to commit to the field, what should they know about protecting their art?
It's tricky because I'm not sure. Like it's a bit of a cat and mouse game where there's something called Glaze and Nightshade. There's a really good team out in Chicago who put together this really incredible program that you run it through the program. It puts a layer of protection on your image, and then AI can't read it properly. There are two things that you can do. Glaze and Nightshade. They do similar things but slightly different. You can run your stuff through that. I don't do it as much as I should. But at the same time, like I think speaking up loudly about it is also very, very important. Um, I'm very concerned about it in general. So,
I'll also point people to an article at cbc.ca that was done on this issue, and it was looking also at if you're using the trend where you make the action figure of yourself, there's also some deep privacy concerns, not the focus of our conversation, but there's some things that people might want to know before they, go through that exercise, which seems like harmless, quote unquote, fun, right? Thank you very much, Alex, for being with us this morning. We really appreciate your time today and your perspective.
thank you very much.
That is Alex Plante. She is an illustrator based here in Winnipeg.